I did not. We have a couple handouts from one of the gentlemen with one of these coalitions, if you want.
Yes, if you want to come up along here, I'll move this out of your way.
Do you have another one of these size? I need to put this in my window.
If you want to come on this
Oh, I
side,
guess
maybe.
you want me to
You want to go that way? Okay.
Yeah, that would, then we'll leave that in the background a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys come on up?
Yeah, come on up, guys.
Yeah, come right next to me here.
Yeah, come on up, Tina. Yeah, just be with us.
Yep, Ron, Tina.
Come on up, guys. Do you want to?
Okay, this way, right here. Okay.
Here's a couple of these
Run
extra
over the
flyers.
wire. Okay, I'm good. All right, this is fine. Yeah. Yeah, we can get it.
Right on the dot, 11:30. Good afternoon, thank you for being here. I'm Representative John Koznick, Republican Chair of the Transportation Committee. With us is Representative Kristen Robbins, Chair Robbins, and some other constituents, Representative Patty Anderson from the Transportation Committee. Come on in. Don't block the sign. Obviously, we're here to talk about the Blue Line Light Rail Extension Project, that we feel there are better alternatives. We've had a listening session and heard from many community members that we can provide very excellent transit with a bus rapid transit program in that same corridor. Today in the Transportation Committee, we will have a couple bills dealing with this subject. And the light rail extension, which would build a light rail train from Target Field all the way through Brooklyn Park, would bulldoze straight through a predominantly black business district in North Minneapolis, and then again end up in Brooklyn Park. This afternoon, I mentioned we will take up two bills that will highlight the important alternatives to a $3.5 billion train. House File 3507 invests $30 million towards an arterial bus transit in the same corridor, and House File 3441 shows how expensive it is to operate a light rail train at $57 million a year in terms of operating and capital maintenance cost. If Hennepin County wants to build a $3.5 billion train, the rest of the state shouldn't have to pay to operate it or pay the $57 million to maintain it. There is very little indication that this project, the train project, would receive federal government providing matching funds. And after listening with many community members, we agree that a bus rapid alternative is a better option because it doesn't divide their community and it doesn't rip out recent expensive transportation investments in that corridor. A rapid bus is more business and pedestrian friendly in the West Broadway business community. A rapid bus offers more service options and more flexibility for transit riders. A bus is less expensive and faster to build than a $3.5 billion train. And a rapid bus is what the community wants, and Hennepin County taxpayers can't afford a $3.5 billion train. There are three main reasons that this light rail is a bad idea. It's too expensive, it lacks flexibility, and it will jeopardize vulnerable communities in North Minneapolis. As being too expensive, the current construction project estimates that it will cost $3.2 billion, but we know that these projections often or almost always come in low, and the actual cost runs significantly higher. The real cost of the project could exceed $3.5 to $4 billion. Initially, the federal government had also agreed to fund a portion of the project, and there's no current indication that federal money is going to be granted. And what this means is that the cost of the project would be subsidized by Hennepin County property taxpayers in the form of greater and increasing property taxes and higher sales tax. Hennepin County already faces massive deficit hurdles, and spending $3.5 billion on a train would be irresponsible. Critical hospital infrastructure such as HCMC, which is projected to face a $1 billion funding deficit over the next 10 years, is probably more important to Hennepin County taxpayers. In regards to flexibility, we can run bus routes across the area for 10 or 15% of the cost of a train. Using Metro Transit's data systems, we can tailor the routes and ride frequency, and customers would receive better service than they would from a train. Once the line is built, it's a fixed route and there to stay. So put differently, we may spend $3.5 billion on a train that too few would ride. Bus routes are more flexible and provide better service. With the rollout of autonomous vehicles in Minnesota and across the country, our public transportation landscape is destined to change in a big way. Minnesotans cannot afford to sink billions of dollars into rail systems that may be obsolete before they even get built. In terms of jeopardizing North Minneapolis and the other communities along the corridor also have concerns, Robbinsdale, Crystal, Brooklyn Park, North Minneapolis, and downtown. The proposed blue line will bulldoze right through the center of historic West Broadway business in North Minneapolis. It's very reminiscent of the Rondo fiasco all over again. By shrinking the road from 2 lanes on West Broadway to a single lane in each direction, the blue line will limit parking and pedestrian access to businesses that are mostly or often minority-owned businesses, leaving entrepreneurs and businesses in financial peril. Community members from North Minneapolis all the way up to Brooklyn Park do not want the Blue Line Extension Rail project. I'm grateful that we had the time in the interim to visit with a lot of the community members at West Broadway, and many of them are here. I'm grateful for the community members that are also joined us today, but I appreciate the community that's reached out to us to provide this feedback for us. Next, we'll have Representative Robbins talk about it. She's a Hennepin County legislator and has a good perspective on this.
Hi there, thanks for being here. I'm Kristen Robbins, District 37A, which is Western Hennepin County. And I got involved in this a couple of years ago because some of my constituents have businesses in the West Broadway corridor, and they had already organized a group called Stop the Blue Line that they were working with collaboratively, and they all came to one of my town hall meetings in Maple Grove. And I had not heard of the issue. I didn't know what they were facing, and they were so well organized and so passionate. They do not want this corridor shut down for 7 years. Their life's investment in their small businesses up and down this corridor will be devastated. And not only are they fighting for their small businesses, but the stop home displacement. So when we toured the corridor, there's about 200 homes in the West Broadway area that will have to be taken down to accommodate this. And that is really devastating to people who live in the community. And finally, as a Hennepin County resident and taxpayer and representing Hennepin County taxpayers in a part of the county, like our taxes have gone up substantially. And we are in a crisis in Hennepin County with the budget. HCMC is on the brink of going under. They are in an operating deficit that the county is covering right now. And to spend $3.2 billion on light rail that the community doesn't want when we really need money to save HCMC is absolute dereliction of duty. We're not saying no to transit. We're saying yes to affordable, flexible bus rapid transit in this area, which is what many of the community members want. So we're still saying yes to transit, but at a much more affordable level, and then we could put more money into saving the hospital. Hennepin County is proposing raising our sales tax in Hennepin County another 1% to help fund the hospital. So not only will their businesses be torn up, we'll have all this displacement, but instead of going with the lower cost bus alternative, we're going to see our taxes again go up another 1% in Hennepin County to raise $350 million a year to help save the hospital. We are in a financial crisis in Hennepin County. It's not the time for new light rail. It is the time to provide for the transit needs of the community, but manage our budget more effectively. So I'll turn it over to Christelle. Sorry, Kristen.
Good morning. My name is Christelle Porter, and I'm the Executive Director of the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition. And we represent the businesses along West Broadway, property owners, and community stakeholders who have spent years working to stabilize and strengthen West Broadway. often with limited public sector support. I want to be clear. Our community is not opposed to investment or transit. What we are opposed to is a project of this scale moving forward without addressing its real and lasting impacts on the safety, access, and economic stability. First is safety. The current plan proposes a one-lane eastbound and westbound corridor with light rail tracks running directly alongside residential blocks. Many of those blocks are home to young children and families. With traffic pushed closer to the sidewalks, fewer recovery zones, and increased congestion, the margin for error narrows significantly. Any stalled vehicle, emergency stop, or conflict between trains and traffic has the potential to become a serious safety issue, particularly in a densely populated corridor. Second, cost and priorities. This project carries an estimated price tag of $3.5 billion at the same time that Hennepin County itself has publicly acknowledged a looming healthcare crisis, including challenges that put HCMC's long-term stability into question. Our community is asking a reasonable question. Are we prioritizing the right investment at this time? Third is the economic impact and congestion. West Broadway is our only true business corridor in North Minneapolis, and for years, business owners and community leaders have worked to reverse its reputation and rebuild traffic patterns, often without consistent leadership or resources. Extended construction and permanent lane reductions will force customers to reroute their daily routines, and once people find a new way around West Broadway, history shows they often do not come back. Finally, the station placement raises serious planning concerns. The two proposed stops are located in front of a liquor store and a smoke shop, while the line passes within 2 blocks of Minneapolis Public School offices, one of the most visited destinations in the area. Families from across the city who rely on public transit will have to pass their destination, exit 2 blocks away, and walk back. That is not equitable planning. It is a clear indicator that these plans were not designed around actual community use. If people were truly engaged in North Minneapolis, they would have found that when people need to leave North Minneapolis to have their demands met, they are going to the quarry in Northeast Minneapolis or to West End in St. Louis Park. West Broadway has made real progress. We have reduced crime, grown businesses, and rebuilt trust block by block. We cannot afford a project that risks undermining decades of our hard work. Investment should strengthen communities, not destabilize them. We are asking decision makers to pause, listen, and partner with us to get this right, because West Broadway deserves a future that is safe, accessible, and economically sustainable. Thank you.
My name is Ronald Buckanaga. I've been a lifelong resident on North Minneapolis for over 40 years, and I worked on West Broadway for over 30 years. I think the Blue Line came to Upper Midwest Indian Center and had a meeting there a couple of summers ago, and they said they promised they were going to help the businesses in North Minneapolis. I never seen that happen. And I think the high construction of the costs of this Blue Line is not conducive for North Minneapolis. I saw what happened with the disruption of the rail line in the Rondo neighborhood and what happened to those businesses. We just got done with the ice surge here in Minneapolis, and particularly in North Minneapolis, and where the people did not want to come to the businesses and the restaurants, and I know they suffered. We should be helping those businesses, because I know they were having a hard time, particularly in the suburbs in North Minneapolis also. Robbinsdale is opposed to the Blue Line, and I think when you're going through the environment, you don't know how it's going to affect the lakes and the area values of the homes. I'm a homeowner in North Minneapolis, and I can't afford to have any more taxes put on us as a taxpayer. There's been a history of low ridership on the lines in Minneapolis. So I don't think the state or Hennepin County should subsidize the low ridership of the riders. We had high crime rates and drug use on the light rails, particularly at the Lake Street and Franklin Avenue stations. I know downtown they were having trouble with people just shooting up drugs and selling, and that affects your ridership. So I think it's slower and less convenient to have the light rail, and I think it'd be better off to have more transit for North Minneapolis. I saw what happened to the businesses in St. Paul, and they did lose customers. It was hard to park for about 5 years, and it just didn't work out. Because if we get higher tax subsidies on the low ridership, it'd be per rider on the light rail. So, that's gonna hurt money coming into North Minneapolis and helping us with our businesses. I would recommend that we do a pause on funding and look at other resources. I know North Memorial and Hennepin County Medical Center are struggling right now, and I know Hennepin County was ready to close down, so a lot of the people in Minneapolis use those services. So I want to thank you for inviting me.
Good morning. My name is Adway Pugh. First name Adway, A-U-D-U-A. Last name Pugh, P as in Paul, U-G-H. And I am the Executive Director of Jordan Area Community Council. I am also a Jordan resident. And I support WBC and the businesses. However, my concern are the residents, our neighborhood itself. The neighborhood of Jordan has around 8,500 residents. And in building building the light rail, they're talking about taking 650 lots between the Jordan neighborhood and the Hawthorne neighborhood. And if they take 650 lots, that's including businesses and homes. Here's the deal. If you are a homeowner or a renter and you live in North Minneapolis and you are trying to move somewhere else other than North Minneapolis, the rent and homes cost more. So our homes in North Minneapolis cost about maybe $200,000, $300,000. In other neighborhoods, besides they're $300,000 to $500,000. So you can't. There's no way how would you make that up? Renters also, if they're moving, their rent is going to skyrocket. They won't be able to afford it, displacing all of these homes, all of these people, tearing up this area, making it not what we are used to and what we want. People see, the people that are making the decisions in North Minneapolis, my issue is they don't live there. The people that live in North Minneapolis love North Minneapolis. They work together, we come together, we help each other. It may not look that way when you look at the news. And in the news, the media is saying that North Minneapolis is bad and this, that, and the third. It's not. People that live there love there, and they love being there. And so what I'm asking is that, and what a lot of neighborhoods are asking, and as the executive director of the neighborhood organization, most of the people that come to me, we are asking for bus rapid transit because it's cheaper and it will cause less devastation to our neighborhood. Now, and we're talking about the money, not just the money, but the devastation You have to be clear about that, the devastation of our neighborhood. The other thing is, I suggested to them that they put it on the highway like they did in Chicago, because they're only using us as a go-through anyway. As Christelle stated, the 2 stops that they're gonna have in North Minneapolis isn't gonna work for many people that need to go to the destinations that they actually need to go to. And so they're only using us as a go-through, so if you're gonna go through, go around. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's the other issue that I have, is that they're saying that that we need it and we want it, but we don't. We really, really don't. And it's gonna affect a lot of homeowners, businesses, and everything. So bus rapid transit is the answer. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, as you heard, thank you so much for joining us and sharing again with the legislature. These are voices that need to be heard and acted on. And so we're proud to have members of the community here. We want buses. We don't need to waste billions. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions if you have.
Chair Koznick, thank you. Speaking of your sign, you got the sign that says "We want buses." You also have legislation that would eliminate some existing buses. How is that not a contradiction?
The legislation to consolidate the transit system will actually put more resources into the transit system that we can use bus routes that people actually use across the region and plan it better. And so it will allow us to provide better transit options. And so by saving money in that bill, but also in this bill, we're going to save billions of dollars. And so we can provide better transit service that doesn't disrupt communities.
How confident are you that they're not going to get the federal funding? Almost half of this $3.2 billion.
Actually, the federal funding grant application is for half of the original price, which is like $1.5 billion. So it's like 0.25% or a quarter of the current estimated cost. In a couple of months, we're going to have an updated plan, a budget on the Blue Line extension, and I'm not going to be surprised at all when it's north of the current budget and I expect it to be $3.5 billion. And so the federal funding, I'm not confident that that's going to happen. We've been working on this project for a long time. This administration seems to be moving in other directions, and I've talked to other leaders that are not, I have a lot of concerns about funding this project.
With all respect, have you heard from anybody tied to the administration who says we're not going to back this?
I've heard that there's a lot of concerns. I don't want to speak for people in Congress, but pay attention. There's probably a letter forthcoming, and there was in the past with the concerns about funding an egregious, expensive, horrible use of funds when we can do something that provides similar amount of transit for 10% of the cost.
Do you have any support from Democrats to pass a bill?
This is a bipartisan effort. One of the reasons that, how would I put this? There's bipartisan support to increase the rapid bus options over the light rail extension. Both Republicans and Democrats understand that that is a better use of funds.
What was your reaction to the fiscal note? Because I haven't, that was news to me. I don't know if that's been out there.
Well, that's
so 7 million first year in revenue, and then versus 57 in operation and maintenance.
I didn't know exactly how much, but we knew it would be expensive. But $57 million a year to operate and maintain, minus some ridership and advertising dollars. The net is about $50 million a year just to operate a train. We will contend, and there will be a forthcoming report that I think will support this, but we'll see what the report has to say. On other alternatives like bus rapid transit, I can guarantee you it doesn't cost $50 million to run a couple buses in that same corridor that will have similar amount of ridership. It's the prudent thing to do to stop the train planning and idea. We're already wasting a ton of money currently. It's not going to get funded. Let's give the community what they want, and that's better transit options with bus rapid transit.
Southwest LRT is going to open in about a year. What are you looking for there?
Well, that'll be interesting. That's case in point right there. Many years, decades over past due, doubled the cost since the inception, and I'm not certain that there's going to have the ridership to make that project as financially viable as they thought it was at one point. Commuter patterns have changed, work patterns have changed. I think if we would have not had the Green Line extension, we could do a lot more of the express bus, rapid bus, and have people move to more freely in those corridors for a lot less money. And so we shouldn't make the same mistake again.
The state has put, I think, $10 million into displacement for the Blue Line extension, and some of that is already filtered out. It does, and I'm looking at people behind you, but, Hennepin County and Med Council are trying, right? They say they listen to you and that they are coming up with a plan where you can both have a train and also address community needs. Do those fall flat? Do they do anything?
My answer to that is I actually have served time on the anti-displacement committee for some time. How that money is being dispersed is by invite only. The first disbursement of funds were they sent emails to who they felt deserved that money. And when they responded with an email and an answer to their form, then they were funded the money. So it was not an open and fair RFP. And hopefully they don't do that again with the second disbursement of funds. Hopefully everybody has a fair chance to be able to apply for those dollars. And as somebody who represents the businesses on West Broadway and has those relationships, not just somebody who's leading the organization, but lives in the community, coaches for the high schools, and led neighborhood associations, we were not invited to help with business stabilization, to be able to serve the businesses that we actually have a relationship with that are directly on the West Broadway Avenue.
And it wasn't sent out to neighborhoods either. And they were supposed to disperse that money to neighborhood organizations for them to give it to the residents and give it to West Broadway so they can spread their money out for the businesses. That did not happen. At the end of the day, and Hennepin County came back and said, no, we're gonna oversee the money and not give it to the others that were supposed to get it. They said no.
And just the fact that they have the program acknowledges that there is displacement. We have community leaders here telling us that it's going to disrupt their businesses, disrupt their neighborhoods, and it's probably in the, much more expensive than the $10 million that was
For sure.
allocated.
And it's matching.
For sure. Oh, yeah, and it's matching.
I'll follow up. Rapid bus transit is generally much less expensive, but it does often require taking away parking or perhaps taking away a lane of traffic for vehicles. Are you going to be supportive of that if that comes to the West Broadway and perhaps businesses losing parking or slowing down traffic?
The difference between bus rapid transit and a train is a fixed. It's fixed to the ground. We're kind of stuck with it for over 100 years. Whereas bus rapid transit, they do have dedicated lanes. However, cars are able to move into that lane when they need to turn and open up that other lane so that the flow of traffic can keep moving. With a train, you can't do that. On top of that, like I said earlier, if the community was actually engaged in this process and they saw that the majority of residents, if they have to leave North Minneapolis, they're going to the quarry in Northeast Minneapolis, or they're going to West End and St. Louis Park to have their needs met if they have to leave North Minneapolis. There are buses that go out to those destinations. They're just very infrequent. If you look at UPS, which is a huge North Minneapolis employer, there's a lot of Northsiders that are working there. In order for them to get there, they have to catch a bus. If anyone's listening to this, they know where this is. It's on West Broadway. It's a holiday that just before the quarry, they have to get off that bus and walk miles. And I don't know if you've ever walked miles in 30 below temperature. And then you can't catch that bus. People that are working overnight, because I know my son actually had to work that job and take that walk. He had to wait at Holiday out in the freezing cold until Holiday gas station opened up so he could stay warm until the bus started running again. I am a single mother. I have raised my children, and when I was dependent on transit, I'm sorry, I'm not going to Brooklyn Center with my small children to go shopping on a train, because when you're carrying children and you're carrying bags and you need to go to multiple stops, you're not going to walk 3 blocks to one store and 2 blocks to another store. It is not thoughtfully planned. It is not thoughtfully planned.
That's right.
And just more specific to the question of the bus, the plan would be an arterial bus, rapid bus, which is different than a full bus rapid transit that has its dedicated lane. We would incorporate stops along the current route, and it would be moving around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but usually you have to do a larger loading platform, you take up more parking, like that is the other side of that too, right?
It would be a lot less intrusive than a train, but the bus rapid would be moving in and out somewhat frequently and provide better service as we heard the need for that. But it wouldn't be in this corridor a dedicated lane. So it would keep traffic moving better with an arterial bus.
On the federal funding, I hear what you're saying about local Congress people opposing it, but Congress in their February budget that passed did include $100 million for Blue Line extension. That hasn't gone through the administration, but there are signs here that Congress supports this project.
That money is not really very well dedicated. I think that was the capital improvement grant. That's only available after a full funding federal agreement. And so we're a long ways away, if not ever, from a full federal funding agreement, and that money is not really, it's just on paper.
Chair Koznick, about the shifting of the 30 million for the arterial BRT, why have legislation moving this now when you're still waiting on the results of a study that you ordered of the corridor that we might not get for a few more months?
I think it's important to highlight that there are other options that are more affordable, that meet the community's needs, and we could put that in service a lot faster than waiting around for some federal funding agreement that I don't think is ever gonna happen. We have that's actual cash sitting, and we should transfer that and start going on an arterial bus system to meet the needs of the community, and we can get that done a lot quicker.
But you can't move that money until the federal funding decision is made, maybe in 2027.
Well, that's why we have the bill, so that it's in front of the legislature to decide on, and we're going to make the argument today and continue with the community that that's the route that the legislature should move to. All right, well, thank you. We're happy to follow up. Do you need the spelling of any of the?
Yes, please.
So Christelle Porter, she's the executive director of the West Broadway Business Area. Ron, how do you say your last name? Buckanaga, he's the director of the Upper Midwest Indian Center. And Adway Pugh, she spelled her name, she's the executive director of the Jordan Area Community Council. Christelle, I better make sure that they typed it right. Kristel, Porter, Porter. Ron, Buckanaga, and Adway is Audua, and last name Pugh, Pugh.
Thank you.
And then you probably know
Thank you.
Chair Robbins and I, so thank you for your interest and happy to follow up with any questions.